All right, welcome to Hot Route Takes. Today we are doing a deep dive into the NFC West. We're going to look into all of the teams in the NFC West, the 49ers, the Seattle Seahawks, the Arizona Cardinals, and the LA Rams. And we're going to just basically dissect them, see where these teams are in their life cycle, and just basically give everyone our thoughts on where these teams are and what direction they're heading in. But before we get into all of that, we wanted to talk about a couple of news, Lamar Jackson, and maybe some other things. What you got, Christian?
Before we talk about Lamar, another free agent that we kind of hadn't talked about on the show is Bobby Wagner's back in Seattle. I mean, we'll probably dive into that when we talk about Seattle, but to me, that was just very interesting for him to go back to Seattle, have every team that could have used him.
Yeah, I think that was a pretty nice fit for him, too. Seattle definitely can use a guy like that, but one player I want to talk about is Lamar, and so apparently he's definitely gone. Is that fair to say?
Personally, I would say I'm 80% sure Lamar will not be a Baltimore Raven next year.
Even if he is, he's pulling a Le'Veon Bell?
Yeah, I'm 100% thinking he would sit out and do a Le'Veon Bell. He'd only be 27 if he sits out a year.
Because he went public with his trade request. That's normally a good indication that this guy is fed up and he's ready to go.
Yeah.
So, but I did have a little bit of a trade package. So there's a couple really nice fits for Lamar, I think, across the NFL. There have been a couple people mention the Colts, Tennessee, Atlanta. But one team I hadn't seen anyone talk about, and I understand why, the San Francisco 49ers. And they're up against the cap. So I guess that's the main thing people will say of, oh, they're not going to trade for Lamar. But I got on Spot Track. I'd made the trade happen. I did have to send Christian McCaffrey, which wasn't ideal. But we're talking about Lamar Jackson and at least $30 million cap hit right here. And that's before he gets his deal. So who knows what that cap hit will actually be, but they'd have to restructure some things and make it fit. They'll be pulling a New Orleans Saints to make this work. But, man, they watched the Rams pull off a very similar thing a couple years ago. And Matt Stafford came into town. They paid him. They were up against the cap. And you saw them last year. Everything fell apart. Now, I don't know if San Francisco would want to do something quite like that because they have something built there that's sustainable and they will be good for a while. So it's kind of like, do you want to continue to be a long-term contender but may never actually get over the hump? Or you could send the farm, go all in for this 1 year with Lamar Jackson and try to win the whole thing. It's tough, man.
Nah, they wouldn't do it, man.
No shot?
No. Just because, like you said, the team that they have built and what you'd have to trade. Nick Bosa's up for a contract soon. I mean, you'd lose, Chris McCaffrey, Nick Bosa would have to probably be gone. George Kittle, I'm not sure when his contract up. We'll talk about it later in the show probably. But a lot of your key pieces for Lamar, it's going to hurt.
I understand that, but this is a perfect scheme fit for Lamar.
It is.
You have a backup for when Lamar misses games inevitably at the end of the season, but will hopefully be back for the playoff game at some point. But I mean, I almost feel like if they trade for Lamar, they are the Super Bowl favorite this year.
Yeah, I mean, I would just think other teams would want him more than the 49ers would.
Yeah.
I like Atlanta a lot as a fit, but they're saying they're not in, but their owner's saying he wants to win now. Their division's wide open. I think Atlanta, to me, would be the greatest spot for Lamar to land.
I think long-term, you're looking at things strategy-wise, I would agree.
Yeah.
I would hope Desmond Ridder don't stop you from trading for Lamar.
No, there's a third-round pick quarterback, and you want to win now. Nothing against the third-round pick. There's been guys drafted way later that turn into amazing pieces and stuff, but how many times is a guy like Lamar up on the block?
Yeah, there's rarely a former unanimous MVP out there available.
The only thing that scares me from Lamar is what you're hinting on is his injuries, his 2 years back-to-back. Since his MVP, his stats just haven't been the same.
He's kind of tailed off a little bit.
Yeah, which Baltimore Ravens fans blame Lamar's failure more so on their offensive coordinator that got fired. And now that we've kind of, this year, it's probably been a thing every year, but this is the first year I've really heard about it. It's where they graded like everything, the facility, the team, their training staff's not there. Could that be a reason Lamar's getting a lot of these injuries?
Possibly. I know they've been bit seems like every year by the injury bug, especially the running backs, man. Like, it's been ridiculous, but I don't know. Like you were saying, I do think it's a little bit risky, but I think I would be more willing to put together a trade package for Lamar Jackson that's equal to what Russ had.
Yeah.
I would rather trade that for Lamar. And what Deshaun Watson got, I'd rather trade that for Lamar Jackson.
Yeah. With the 49ers is the team that you're saying he'd go to, just you hadn't had the elite quarterbacks and been one time to a Super Bowl. And this year, if your guy didn't hurt his elbow or what happened, I mean, I think possibly back in the Super Bowl, that game was equal until that injury happened.
Yeah. I just think, man, you add Lamar Jackson to an offense like that.
I agree, but
dude,
if you're so close without one of those elites to this team, it's just like what you said. They have this team built.
The Rams did exactly what you just said.
Yeah, they had the team there and just went and got the quarterback like you're saying. If I'm a GM, I don't know what the 49ers GM is thinking. I'd rather have multiple chances to win than win one and dip.
I would agree. I'm in that ballpark. This is just an idea.
Yeah, I think for an idea, this is a good fit for Lamar. I just wouldn't know how they would fit the cap in and how many players they would have to lose to fit Lamar in their cap. But I think you add Lamar, it's just healthy Lamar all year, a guaranteed at least play at the Super Bowl.
Yeah. What I had to do, I had to restructure Trent Williams. Doing that saved me $14 million. Trading Trey Lance is like an automatic $9 million in dead cap. So that was a hurdle.
Yeah, but if I guess Baltimore for their scheme, that'd be the closest guy they would get.
Trey Lance.
Yeah, and you wouldn't want Brock Purdy because he's coming off of the big injury. Sam Darnold just signed a 1 year. You're not going to trade for that.
No.
And then, I mean, the only thing that scares me with Trey Lance, he's coming off the injury too. So do they even look at that trade offer with him on it?
I don't know, but at some point, like I was saying, they got to pick a direction and go. Like, what are they doing for 2023? Free agency done coming past, the draft going past, and Lamar Jackson's still going to be on the Baltimore Ravens.
There is one guy out there for Baltimore, for the one time, old Joey Hot
Cam
Step.
Newton?
No.
Oh, man.
Joey Hot Step Flacco. Joe Flacco is still out there for him. But no, on a serious note, it's a good fit for 49ers if they would do it, and what you're trading is a lot to then. I mean, the 49ers don't have any draft picks. It's really, they're pulling the Rams.
They are.
What you're lining up.
Is it worth it for a Super Bowl? The Rams fans will tell you it was.
Nah, after watching last season, you think they still feel like that?
Well, they probably checked out. They'll come back in a couple of years.
Man, that was rough.
That's kind of the what they built. They bought all these established players with their draft picks.
Yeah.
They got a little bit older, and they relied on these few individual players spread across the roster to carry the weight of the whole team.
I think the Rams, I'm going to say the general manager definitely wanted to draw it up like that, but I think it also kind of was like the cards he had dealt to him. Deshaun McVay was getting the whole, if he's going to coach the next year. Then you had, can't even think of, Donald on the defensive line, talking about he might retire.
Yeah.
The Ramsey contract. You went and got Matthew Stafford. So I think once you went and got Matthew Stafford and you heard all the rumors, you didn't have a choice but to go all out because you didn't know what you were getting the next year.
That's true. I understand that too. But, man, the ultimate goal is the Super Bowl, right?
I agree, but the
ultimate goal isn't to be a playoff team 5 years in a row.
Yeah, I mean, that's where the 49ers are now. If we think about it, it's been probably I'd say 5 years they've been in the playoffs. This is close. Probably longer than that.
I think it was longer than that. They had a little
Colin
dip.
Kaepernick had that run with them, and then I think since then they had Alex Smith too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they've been on a little Super Bowl, not run, but a playoff run for a while now.
Yeah, the Super Bowl contending window, I would say. So I guess you want to go ahead and deep dive into the 49ers?
Oh, yeah, we can start with the 49ers. You want to go first or you want me to go first?
You take it, champ.
All right. I just want to start off, for people that don't know who their head coach and general manager is, kind of break everything down on what they have in the building right now, and then go out from there and give just a look out. So this is their 6th year under their head coach and general manager. The head coach is Kyle Shanahan, and then the general manager is John Lynch. Last year, their record was 13-4. Division place was first in the NFC West. Their playoff games, they played Seattle 41-23. Then they played Dallas 19-12, and then ultimately lost to the Eagles 7-31 with their quarterback getting hurt in that game. Last year had 7 Pro Bowlers. Personally, you can take Pro Bowlers how you want. At this point, I don't look at Pro Bowlers with probably the respect that they used to get back in the day. Their draft picks last year, I looked them up, got a couple of the guys they picked, but other than Drake Jackson at USC, he's supposed to be a good player, just didn't hit the field as much as with this defense being as good as they were. And then other than Brock Purdy, none of these guys that got drafted really seen the field or had a big impact on this team. Last season, and I think looking forward, I think Brock Purdy more than likely, unless they really want to put Trey Lance out there, should be the starter of this team. I think last year you seen Trey Lance get hurt, Jimmy G went out, this guy came in, went 5-0 as a starter in the regular season. And I think the 49ers, just as a team right now, is the most probably dominant team in the NFL on both sides of the ball. They did finish 5th in total offense. They were getting 365 yards per game, 6th in scoring, averaged 26.5 points a game. They finished 1st in the league in both defensive total and defensive scoring. So I think, you keep these pieces here, this is going to be a good team for, I think, many years. Also on defense, they finished 1st in the league in turnovers. I think with their defense coordinator leaving, this might hurt them a little bit on the defense side of the ball, but the playmakers they have here and for the future, I just don't think it's really going to fall off. I got some of their big contracts, and players that pretty much all these guys I'm going to list off are going to be on this team at least to 2026. You have Trent Williams, Fred Warner, Armstead, Javon Hargrave, who they just signed. I think that was a great for them to go out and pick up. You have George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, and Christian McCaffrey. These are all guys that are kind of the foundation for this team, and for them to go get draft picks and build up upon these players when these contracts are up. Ultimately, I don't think a lot of these guys, once this contract's up for them, other than maybe Christian McCaffrey and Deebo, would probably, I think they'll be done on this team. And Fred Warner definitely probably come back. Other than that, that's just kind of like the outlook of this season, of what they were. And I think, to me, are we kind of going to wait till the end and give a kind of a ranking, Brian, on where we think they're going to be in the future? You want to do that, or?
Yeah, we can do that. Okay. I have a good idea of what I already have them ranked at. But
definitely. But pretty much, I think just the quick little rundown I gave with the 49ers, they're in a great spot. And in this division, I think they're kind of like the big dog right now. Granted, that could change once we go on a deep dive on these other teams. But I just think the 49ers, head coach-wise, general managers, it looks – they're built to last for a while, I think, unless they go out and do something crazy. But that's just something we don't see the 49ers do.
Yeah, I would agree with you. And I also agree with your assessment of the 49ers. I think they're a team that's ready to compete, and they have set themselves up for long-term sustainable success. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact they're not having to really pay a quarterback that much right now. So they have built the rest of this roster out, and it's good, man. And I think they're ready to compete, and they will be competing next year just like they did last year. And everyone wants to talk about the offensive pieces and this and that, Kyle Shanahan. But if you really boil it down, what this team's bread and butter was, it's their defense, man.
I agree 100%.
That defense is elite. It's the best defense in the NFL. And I don't think you can even really argue that. They are elite, and they have players on the first, second, and third level that are playmakers. And that reason alone, I think they'll be competitive, and they should be one of the favorites in the NFC.
The only thing that scares me about the 49ers is kind of the quarterback status that you just said. Right now we're looking at Trey Lance doing his recovery and Brock Purdy doing his recovery. And from what I kind of heard today, they're doing the head coach meetings and media's asking them questions. And from what I kind of understood and what it's sounding like is more than likely Sam Darnold's probably going to be the starter week 1.
Which is
in
crazy.
This system, I think it's going to help Sam Darnold, but we've also seen Sam Darnold at his worst moments and his best moments. But this is a team where we've seen quarterbacks go in there and just be successful.
I would agree with you. I think if there is a scheme or an offense that can extrapolate the best out of Sam Darnold and kind of clean up the really low lows that he has, kind of make him a little bit more consistent, I think you could really see Sam Darnold have some success. Do I think he's a franchise quarterback? No, absolutely not. But can he get you through until either A, Trey Lance is ready, or B, Brock Purdy's ready? I think so. I think this was the right move for them to make, given what their situation is. I mean, what do you do?
Yeah, both of these guys, I think 49ers fans at least, I know a fan, granted this is only one out of however many they have, hundreds of thousands. He's sold on Brock Purdy. That's who he wants to start next year. He's not even thinking of Trey Lance. Granted, he doesn't run the team. So I just, if I was in the general manager seat, and a head coach, really, it's up to him, not the general manager at this point. As a head coach, what would you kind of do with that quarterback situation?
If it was me?
Yeah, you have both of those guys. One son led you, almost to the promised land. One you went out and, you stuck your head out for, I think, head coach and general manager to go get Trey Lance.
Well, if it was me, I might entertain the thought of trading for Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
Not do it. See what they would take. You know what I mean? Like, just entertain the thought. Do your due diligence. Yeah. But, I'm not inside the building. I don't know what the medicals look like for Brock Purdy or Trey Lance. Apparently, they do believe in Trey Lance. I never did. I would have taken Justin Fields, and you would have imagined where they had been now. Of course, hindsight's 20/20, but I have proof that I was a big Fields guy.
Yeah.
I have it all over my Twitter, and I was never big on Trey Lance. But apparently, like you were talking about before the pod, they were going to take Mac Jones if Trey Lance wasn't there.
That's heard from a bird. Take it with a grain of salt, but that's. Even I think thinking back to that draft, that's what everybody's thinking. They're trading up for Mac Jones.
Yeah, I heard a lot of that.
So I believe it, 100%. I believe it. I think Mac Jones, safer pick. I don't really know what they fell in love with so much with Trey Lance.
I don't know. I really don't. I think
play for a year.
Trey Lance is like swinging for the fences, while Mac Jones is like bunting in the first inning. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Would you, kind of getting off subject, but would you look at Anthony Richardson like Trey Lance? Like, granted, he has more playtime, but just as a team
prospect,
like coming out of nowhere, picking him, that would take that as. So I think the other quarterbacks would be, Justin Fields that year was way more playtime, developed more than Trey Lance.
I'll never understand why NFL teams thought Trey Lance was a better prospect than Justin Fields. I'll never understand that.
I don't understand the Justin Fields hate out there on big media. It blows my mind.
Makes no sense to me. But I don't know, man. I think Anthony Richardson's a better prospect.
Yeah, he's had more playtime and played at a bigger school.
All of that.
And combine stuff.
He's a better athlete.
Yeah. That is a hard kind of comp to do, but
I'm thinking they're pretty similar prospects. Like, the same questions exist for both these guys. Neither one have a bunch of experience. Neither one are polished passers. You have no idea what strengths and weaknesses this guy will have once he is developed as a passer. And you're basically leaning on, okay, this guy's an athlete who plays quarterback, and we're going to see what we can do with him. And I think both of those guys kind of fall into that bucket. However, if I'm going to take a risk on one or the other, I probably do take that risk on Anthony Richardson than Trey Lance.
Yeah.
That's just me. I think there's a little bit more upside with Anthony Richardson. They're talking about a faster Cam Newton.
Yeah. That's
pretty
really spot on.
But As far as the 49ers go, do you have anything else you want to add?
Nah, you can do your little rundown on them.
Okay. For the 49ers, I think they are in a position to not only compete next year, but like we said, compete for the next several years. And however, they do have a couple positions that they need to address in free agency going forward. One of the big ones is they lost right tackle Mike McGlinchey in free agency, and he got the bag. He got way overpaid. That's kind of the situation you get in free agency with a starting tackle that has youth to him like Mike McGlinchey does, but they're going to have to address that. I'm not exactly sure what avenue they'll take to address that, but that's a big hole in your right tackle position. Of course, they got Trent Williams on the other side, and he's the best offensive lineman in all of the NFL. I don't think that's an overstatement. But they need to get a right tackle. They also need to address the tight end position. As we all know, George Kittle is a great player, but they need another tight end, and he also has a history of injuries. So that's a big one they need to fill, and as well as a backup middle linebacker role. And I have the player I think could be a perfect fit for them, and that is Washington State linebacker Dion Henley. I don't know if you're familiar. This is a stud, uber athletic linebacker, has coverage skills, and that's kind of the 49ers bread and butter is former DBs, former safeties that transition to linebacker, a little bit undersized but can move and can cover. This is one of those guys, and I think if they draft him, it'll be a home run selection to just be right there behind Greenlaw and Fred Warner. And that, I don't think it's an overstatement to say they have the best linebacker unit in all of the NFL too, because they do. Fred Warner's a stud, man. And they're in a position where they can use their draft picks that they do have to kind of fill positions that are right now accounted for, but maybe their contract's ending next year or maybe 2 years from now. And this is just a player to kind of sit behind that guy, develop, and once said player leaves, that player can fill that role, and it's like a seamless transition. However, like I said, right tackle, tight end, middle linebacker, and I would say they need to add another back. And you can find that. They have several picks this year. I think they got a couple compensatory picks. They have 3 third-round picks, so that's nice. I'm sure they can fill all the positions they need. And really, if I'm the 49ers, the biggest question going forward is the status of your quarterback. Which one is it going to be? But, yeah, that's all I got on the 49ers, man.
Okay. Which team do you want me to kind of go on to next?
I would say Seattle, but
Are you want to save them or go with them?
Let's go ahead. Let's go with Seattle, man.
All right. I'm going to pull up something real quick.
I'll filibuster for you. I can go ahead and start a little bit. So, Seattle, this is a team that really wasn't supposed to be competitive last year at all. And, well, they were. And not only were they competitive, they went to the playoffs and looked like a playoff team. They didn't look like a fool's gold, or they didn't look like the Giants. Sorry to all the Giants fans out there, but you overpaid Daniel Jones, and you're probably going to be in that position for a while now. But Seattle, I think they're going to be the team that kind of competes with San Francisco in this division going forward. But if you want to go ahead and...
Yeah, I'll take it from here. So Seattle, 13th season over or under their head coach and general manager, Pete Carroll and John Snyder. The only thing that scares me about this, to be honest, is Pete Carroll's age. I mean, this guy's getting old. I'm kind of concerned, but I mean, it doesn't look like he's quitting anytime soon. But that's the only thing that kind of worries me about Seattle right now. But other than that,
that's just a football guy.
Yeah, I mean, record was 9-8. Division place was second. They did make it to the playoffs this year. But before I get deep into this, I just want to go back to the beginning of the season. They traded Russell Wilson. I think this was for the first time since 2012. Quarterback Russell Wilson and linebacker Bobby Wagner was not on this roster. Saying that, we kind of already talked about Bobby Wagner is back on this squad. But I think it's kind of crazy, they make that trade for Russell Wilson, they didn't go get, but traded for Drew Lock, and then end up going to get Geno Smith. And, from what I heard this offseason, everybody probably thought this was Drew Lock's team.
I thought so.
And then, I know you were pretty big on Drew Lock at one point.
That was an L.
Yeah, at one point, and Geno Smith was, I was big on Geno. He finally got to what he is now. I'm not saying that's a dub because this was only one season, but I thought it was.
I would classify it as a dub, man.
Yeah.
Especially if you stuck by it and stuck to your guns through it all, which I don't know if you did. I certainly did not, and I was a pretty big Geno fan too.
Yeah. But, from going from that to this, it kind of amazes me. But I'll get back to what I was saying now. The playoff loss, they did lose to the 49ers in the playoffs. Granted, that's a team you play twice a year. They're a good team. What?
You hear the
I hear
fan on the MacBook? It's fucking getting it.
Okay. All right. But they lose to a team in the playoffs that, they play them twice a year, like I was saying. Do they know what you want? Granted, this is also the first year Geno's in the offense. So I think that may play an effect on this team getting to see Geno twice and then playing him one more time. But, they had 4 Pro Bowlers. That's another thing, like I said, about the last team. Granted, one of them was Geno Smith, and also one was a rookie in their corner in Woodland. So I think with those Pro Bowls, I give a nod to because that's 2 players that's never even seen a Pro Bowl. And then
Tariq Woolen.
Good, man.
Beast, man.
He isn't. We'll save that for another day. We're not going to.
I know what you're talking about,
man. But in the playoffs, like I said, Seattle faced their rival in the wild card round. Despite leading at the end of the first half, they would eventually be defeated 41-23 to fall. Like I was saying, it's a team that plays them a lot. But unlike the 49ers, this team, to me, did good last year in the draft. To me, I think even if you do dislike them going to get Kenneth Walker III, I understand. So running back, people doesn't like it. Granted, he was taken in the second round. And
That's not that bad to me.
This was a running back to me that I was high on him when he was at Michigan State. This is a good guy.
I work team Kenneth Walker over here over Brees Hall. I don't know about you, but say it. Say it.
Brees Hall, man. Wait till he gets healthy. But Kenneth Walker to me is a great back, good fit for what they wanted. Kind of bring back the Marshawn Lynch kind of era, I guess you can say, but with him instead. And then, they got a steal on a guy I just said with their Pro Bowler. This guy was in round 5, pick 153 in Woodland, cornerback. Was a Pro Bowl 2022. That was this year, of course. It was a co-leader in interceptions and an all-rookie team this year. I think Seattle's always been a team that, they probably have, but just off the top of my head, this team drafts well. I just think their general manager knows what they need, and he kind of goes gets it.
Yeah, man. I think they knocked last year's draft out of the park.
Yeah.
They did. And this is very reminiscent of the draft they had. Oh, man. It was 2012 where they drafted Cam Chancellor, Bobby Wagner.
I think it was 2012.
Russell Wilson.
It's either 12 or 13.
Did they draft Earl Thomas in that draft too?
I think he was the year before, I want to say.
But regardless, they do a good job drafting
like I said,
in general.
Always. And this guy's been there for 13 years. So, he's building this exactly how he wants it. He's got his foundation there. But, other key players on big contracts. Geno Smith got his little bag. Granted, it was only 3 years, $75 million. Average is 25. For a quarterback and what money they're bringing in, they have a steal on Geno.
I agree.
For a starting quarterback.
How many quarterbacks have you seen get like this middle class contract? I feel like Geno Smith is the only quarterback with a middle class contract.
What was his? I don't even know what Jimmy G's. What was his? It couldn't be nothing crazy.
Let me go.
Yeah, I'll keep going, and you just whenever you get it, holler. DK Metcalf's another guy. He's on there. A lot of these guys, all but let me go through the names, and I'll tell you: Jamal Adams, Tyler Lockett, Draymond Jones, Quadron Diggs. All these guys are on this team until 2026, other than Diggs. So I think, kind of like I said with the 49ers, they're big players, and what they kind of need for a foundation is there for the next couple years for them to. Uh-oh. I see the head shaking. What does Jimmy G got?
Okay, so they are similar-ish. So Geno got 3 years, $75 million, and Brock Purdy got about this.
Geno Smith. I got you. I'm following you.
Jimmy G got about the same. Yeah, 3 years, 73.
They got a steal for Geno Smith.
Because I'm taking Geno all day over Jimmy G, bro. Jimmy
G's 2 last years, injuries. Yeah, Geno, and then, the last thing I want to talk about after these contracts is, that trade for Russell Wilson, granted, also another thing about Geno, he's outperformed Russell Wilson, his first year there.
I wonder what Seattle fans think about that. Do they, if you had to ask it, like diehard Seattle fans,
would they love Geno or not?
If they had to pick between Russell Wilson and Geno Smith, who would they actually go with? I
would think with the BS is what I'd be nice on the pod. BS that comes with Russell Wilson and what they had to deal with and then how players that are good with Seattle, like the Richard Shermans and all these other big players and what they've said about Russell Wilson, I would think their fan base is agreeing more with those players than the team 3 is a good way to put it.
I can see that. I know personally, I think I would gravitate towards Geno.
Yeah. I wonder what they did with Russell Wilson's office in Seattle. You think it's still there? Or Geno? I don't think he didn't get that.
I would hope not. Geno probably didn't want it.
No, definitely not. But the last little thing about Seattle is with that trade to Denver, they got a round 1 pick, pick 5, and a round 2 pick 37. And this draft, they have 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, a third, 4th, 2 5ths, a 6th, and a 7th.
This is the year for them.
And this, you have Geno on this cheap contract. They could, I think, made a bigger splash maybe in free agency, but bringing Bobby Wagner back was, I think, a big piece for them. And I'm excited to see with this draft they have and how many picks they have. And maybe they do some wheeling and dealing with these draft picks and even get more draft picks coming in. If I'm Seattle, I'm thinking you pick somebody at 5. This draft, I think they have pieces in this draft, but I think after probably pick 20, you're probably taking gambles on players.
I really think it's about 10, bro.
Yeah, I was trying to be nice because we're talking about guys making it to the league, but this draft is not loaded like we've seen. And I think you take your pick 5 and then your pick 20 in the first round, you start making phone calls.
Yeah,
and then you get more second round picks, or even a second and a third for that first round pick.
Trade it, maybe like Will Levis falls down the board and someone's looking up to take that 20s. Yeah, trade it. Get a second next year. A first next year instead of a.
I know this probably won't happen, but I've been trying to think about DeAndre Hopkins, and with this round 1 pick 20, would you be willing to trade it to Arizona for DeAndre Hopkins?
No, that's too rich, bro. I think you can trade like a 3 or a 4 or something like that for Hop at this point.
Yeah, they do have that Denver pick. Round 2 pick 37?
Do what?
It's a round 2 pick 37 they got from Denver.
I wouldn't trade that for him either. I think you can legitimately get him for like a 3rd or 4th round pick.
Yeah, I just don't even need him. I'm just trying to help Geno more, load it up. You got to play this 49ers defense in this division. So I think it'd be nice to add a weapon like that. But with these picks and kind of where their salary cap is and where they're paying these players, I think Seattle's in a good spot. It's just the 49ers they're here in their division, so it's tough. But
this is a big time for Seattle.
Yeah, and I think with the whole, what we kind of hinted on with the 49ers is their quarterback with question marks. Seattle gets an early hot start, and for some reason the 49ers can't get a hot start.
Yeah.
This division is going to be very interesting near the end.
We've seen the 49ers kind of have rough breaks with injuries and just kind of not be what, they were supposed to be. I think it was like, 2020? Everyone got hurt, and Miami was able to get like the 6th overall pick in the draft because of it or something like that. But anyways, yeah, I can definitely see Seattle taking this division, bro. Like, their quarterback situation doesn't work out and they got Josh Johnson back there again or something.
I hope not.
I hope not, but, whatever. Seattle's good enough, bro, to compete. I don't want to give away the rankings just yet, but Seattle, based on where they are as a team, I was thinking they were going to rebuild last year, but I was wrong. Look at them right now. This draft class is going to define what this team will be. I mean, you're talking about 2 firsts, 2 seconds, and 2 thirds?
No, I think they only got the 1/3.
Still.
I can look real quick.
But this is when you get to see what this team will end up becoming. Because a draft pick's locked in for 4 years at least. A guy is going to be a foundational piece, or it's just going to be a guy on the roster. And when you have draft picks like this, a lot of the times that's kind of what
1/3.
1/3. That's kind of what this team's going to be. These are the guys. So they gotta win this draft class, and I think that they will. I think Seattle's really positioned themselves to do well in the future. The only thing that kind of scares me a little bit, if Seattle does not take a quarterback this year, I don't know when the next opportunity they'll have to draft one is.
At pick 5, man? No.
And I don't want to pick one at 5 if I'm them.
I think they're...
Or is Drew Lock waiting in the wings to take over?
Man, you traded for him. You have to. I would think somebody in that building believes in Drew Lock. But then you signed Geno to the 3-year. They did sign Drew Lock also, but granted his deal was
not like that.
I don't even know how many years his was or nothing like that.
Yeah. So are they gonna? They could fool around and pull a Colts, man, and that would not be ideal.
Yeah, or they could. I mean, don't know.
Sign veteran quarterback for 1 year, didn't work. Sign another veteran.
This could be, I mean, I don't think they would, but what if they kind of wait out the whole Lamar thing, let Lamar sign this year on the franchise deal, and then you can not cut ties with Geno, but somehow make that work where you can trade Geno.
You can't, bro. $27 million in dead cap. He has to be there this year.
Not this year. I'm just talking about next year.
Oh, yeah. Next year, they could.
So Lamar would play.
Let me see.
Lamar would play definitely this year if they got the tender. And then you can go get Lamar, and you'd have the cap to probably go get him without Geno on the roster.
Yeah, if they release him next year, post June 1st, they only got $9 million in dead cap. And they'll save $23 million.
I think this how they do contracts now, man. They front load them so much that say this year doesn't go as planned, cut ties with Geno, and I don't know we're looking way far ahead, but who's free agents next year at quarterback? Our next year's draft class is looking, at least in the quarterback. I know one quarterback that everybody's probably thinking of is Caleb Williams. And if Seattle does have a bad year and they're sitting there,
I don't even know if Seattle will have a bad year.
No, I don't think they will. I'm just saying worst case scenario. If it does go to bad, you have the pick that you go get another quarterback that you feel very comfortable probably getting.
I think worst case scenario for Seattle after all these draft picks is like 6 wins, 7 wins.
Oh, yeah, 6, 7 wins.
And I just don't think they'll be in the realm of possibility to even touch Caleb Williams. I think he's you can lock him in for the first overall pick off the board. That's what it seems like. A lot of things can change now and then, but...
Is there anything else about Seattle?
I just wanted to really just brag on one player here, and that is cornerback Tyreek Woolen.
What, man? A good brag,
Scoffing, man.
Because, man, there's a guy who gets, they get compared to a lot because they're both rookies. And
that's your guy over there.
One's better than the other, but that's a good guy to brag on, man. That's a good young corner that it seems like these corners – I think I've already said this once on the pod, but these corners are kind of like these wide receivers now where they just come in the league and they're ready.
Yeah, I would agree. This guy is 6'4". That's a big corner. He's long, man. He's reminiscent. He reminds me of is Richard Sherman.
Yeah.
That's the kind of style player he is.
That's a good comp too, man.
And crazy enough, he's in Seattle. They might have saw the same thing, but I just wanted to shout him out, man. He was excellent last year, and I think he's just one of the best young defensive players, not just corners, but
I agree.
Just one of the best young defensive players in the league, man. And another shout out to one of their young players is Boye Mafe. And he didn't really, get a whole lot of playing time last year, but I think this is a edge player that is poised to break out. He's a freak of nature athletically, and I think he might pop this year. He can get some playing time and make an impact. I'm a believer. But without further ado, you want to move on to whichever team?
Which one you want, man, out of these two guys?
Your turn to pick, man.
I'm going to go, man, we'll do, man, I guess Arizona. I'm going to pull up their draft picks real quick. Type everything else, just not what they're going to do this year.
You mean filibuster for you a minute?
It shouldn't take that long.
All right. I'll set the table then. Arizona. I want to preface this with the fact that I do apologize to all the Arizona Cardinals fans out there. I know you guys are hurting right now because this is ugly.
Okay.
I mean, I know you guys didn't think this was going to happen, but the Cardinals, bro, they fell apart last year. It was bad. It's crazy to think in 2021 they made the playoffs, man.
They were 11-6 last year. 11-6.
Golly. Things change so fast, don't they?
Man. I think I need to fact check this, but I believe with the Chiefs just playing that one game in Arizona and winning the Super Bowl, they have the same number of wins in that stadium that Arizona had this year.
Golly.
One. That is sad. You're at your home field. All right, but I'm ready. I got the picks up, but we're going to start with kind of what I've been doing with every team, just laying out kind of what's been going on. But this is the fourth season and final year under head coach Cliff Kingsbury, which I think was a good move just because we seen Kyle Murray and him on the sidelines this year before Kyle Murray got hurt, and it looked like they kind of picked when they signed Kyle Murray to that contract that they picked him over the coach.
I think that was the right move, but yeah, I don't know if it was a good one.
Like I said to you just now, I mean, their record this year was 4-13. The year before was 11-6. And then division place, ultimately, with that record, you can imagine they were last in this division. This year, they hired their first new general manager. This is the first general manager they have hired not inside of the building.
I think that's a big note right there, Christian.
Hiring from outside of the building?
Yes.
This is the first guy since 1994 that came from in and out of the building.
They needed to do that.
I think it's a good move to get out of the building. And even the head coach, they went and got Jonathan Gannon off of the Eagles. I think that was a good pickup, too. This is a defensive guy. Right?
Yeah,
DC. The other one, the offense guy, is the coach. No. Are we right or backwards?
You got me confused now.
I know. I wanted to make sure before. I'm thinking, I get confused.
He's
I know
DC, I'm pretty sure. Bro.
I think you're right.
I'll make sure and check. I don't want to be wrong here on the podcast.
Yeah. I'm positive he's a defensive guy.
Yeah.
And the Colts got the offense coordinator.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, like I said, they got Jonathan Gannon. I think we're wrong, ain't we? I remember the dude. No, this is the offense coordinator, bro. I'm locking that
he's
in.
the DC. He is the DC,
okay.
Bro.
All right. They went and got a DC. I think this was good for them because their defense has not been great. I think this is also great for Isaiah Simmons on this defense. I hope this coach will come in here and lock him into a position to he will not be going through what he's been going through since they went and drafted him and moving him everywhere on the field. Isaiah Simmons, of course, was very highly sought after when he was coming in the league out of Clemson.
The offensive coordinator for the Eagles was Shane Steichen.
Yeah, he's at the Colts.
Yeah, the Colts.
Okay. I think another thing about this Arizona team that you got to hint on and why the season probably went like it did is, I mean, they had some big injuries. I mean, they had starters coming in and out, both on the offense and defensive side of the ball, ultimately leading to a season-ending 7-game losing streak. And let's see, I mean, key injuries. You had Kyle Murray missed time this year. They had other big pieces, but I mean, Kyle Murray is one of the biggest pieces to miss time.
For sure.
And then, I mean, I'm going to give a shout out to, a guy I was a big fan of. It's kind of an end of an era they're losing a 3-time Defensive Player of the Year winner in J.J. Watt. I think this was them going to get him, hoping that I think they expected him to play longer than he did. But I think this is going to hurt them, big time. And they also lost, who's the guy that went to Denver?
From the Cardinals?
Yes, defensive line guy. Allen. Oh, what's his name?
Zach Allen?
Zach Allen.
Yeah.
So they lose J.J. Watt and Zach Allen on this defensive line. And then, like I've been saying, Pro Bowls, they did surprisingly have one Pro Bowler, and that was Budda Baker. I think, last year, their draft, other than Trey McBride and round 2, none of these guys.
Najee Sanders is potentially going to be all right. Cameron Thomas, but bad.
None of these guys had, if they did have play time, you see their record. It wasn't great for them to probably get play time because they were losing games and not probably playing to the scheme all the way and just playing shell defense and letting them just get a couple yards. To me, though, I think with these guys being drafted by the old GM, I'm very looking forward to, this year's draft. They have a round 1, pick 3, round 2, pick 34, and then, they have round 3, 2 picks, round 4, 5, and round 6, they have 2 picks again. I think with the new GM, I'm kind of excited to see, with them having 2 high picks in round 1 and 2, what kind of direction this general manager kind of shows his hand on what they're kind of going to go and build. To this Arizona team, they need a lot. I think there's nothing you want to kind of keep on this team other than Kyle Murray and their other big contracts.
Budda Baker.
It's Budda Baker.
Hollywood Brown.
DeAndre Hopkins. DJ Humphries.
We pretty much say DeAndre Hopkins is out of there, right?
Jalen Thompson, Zach Ertz, James Conner, Isaiah Simmons. And Isaiah Simmons, James Conner, Zach Ertz, and DeAndre Hopkins, but he's out. But these other 3 guys I just named, their contracts are up in 2025. So I think new coach, new GM. I'm excited to see what Arizona wants to do, but I just think, from a team point, this has to be one of the biggest falls we've seen in the NFL. Kind of out of nowhere. I don't think you expected Arizona to go from 11-6 to 4-13. You seen it, man? The only thing I will say about Kyler Murray, and the only thing I hate about Kyler Murray is him and Jared Goff have this thing. Well, I call it I don't really have a word for it, but when they are in a game, I think Jared Goff definitely got better this year with not doing this, but Kyler Murray has still done this. Just how he looks in the first quarter and the faces he makes, you can tell what kind of day Kyler Murray is going to have.
I would agree with that. I do think there is some limitations being put in place by Cliff Kingsbury just being a bad coach.
I think he brought a lot of the college system in thinking it was going to work in the NFL, and this is the big league, so it's not going to work.
Nope. As soon as a player went out, that offense was just immediately, and Cliff Kingsbury couldn't adjust. Like you were saying, he brought the college offense in, and it just wasn't the same. And I do think that is the kind of offense Kyler Murray needs to run, though, to be successful.
And this GM and head coach they just hired is stuck with him. They just signed this guy to a 5-year, $230 million contract, average $46 million a year, guaranteed $189 million.
Yeah.
And they're stuck with him until 2029, unless they cut him and eat some dead cap.
I'm fine with Kyler Murray as a quarterback. I would be okay to, if I'm Arizona at this point, they've already committed to him. They believe in them. I'm going to probably stick with him and see what I can build around him. I think there is a world out there where the offense didn't work more so because of Cliff Kingsbury than it was Kyler Murray. I think you can run that similar style offense and just run it at a higher level.
The only other thing that scares me with Arizona, and which I think Eagles fans will agree, is their defense was way better. Let me change that. Arizona's defense is way worse than the Eagles. And the Eagles got torched. Granted, I understand the field problem, but the Eagles also have moments this year. I understand they won a lot of games, but they lost to Washington. And then at the end of the season against the Chiefs, and their defense kind of didn't get exposed, but I mean, they have like good players in every position. I'm not trying to take anything away from this guy. I'm happy he got a head coaching job. That's the ultimate goal. There's only 32 of them, but I'm kind of want to see what this defense is going to be able to do with how many holes they have that we're leaning towards saying they don't have players in a lot of these spots. So I'm just ready to see what the GM and head coach can kind of do with what they kind of got handed to them.
Well, the first thing I would say is the GM being out the building is a very big deal. Like I kind of hinted on a little bit earlier, like this has been a very poor drafting team. Like very poor. Let's go over the last couple of years, shall we? Take a trip down memory lane. Cardinals fans might want to cover their ears. You touched on the 2022 draft class, and there's a whole lot of nothing there. I mean, Trey McBride could end up being a solid tight end. I mean, and Cameron Thomas, Majay Sanders could end up being serviceable defensive ends, edge players. And you can get a little bit deeper. They drafted a running back at pick 201, offensive lineman, a couple of linebackers. Like, okay. 2021, they drafted Zaven Collins and linebacker. This is a solid player, I would say, but I'll get into that in a minute. But Rondell Moore, in the second round, I think they overdrafted a little bit there. And he's not really, that looks like a kick returner, bro. I'm going to be honest.
He's a little man.
Kick returner, gadget guy, not very impactful player in the second round. Yeah. Marco Wilson, corner, actually a solid pick, I would say. He's going to end up being a pretty good player. And then the next picks they have are in the 6th, 7th round. So we'll go ahead and move on to 2020. They drafted Isaiah Simmons. And this is kind of where I'll get into this. And they keep drafting these do-it-all defensive players that can play all over the field in different positions, but they just don't have a plan for them. And they get to the league and they don't produce because they don't know what to do with them. We saw this with Son Reddick. He didn't do anything for how many years? Leaves and then blows up in Philly and wherever else he blew up at.
Panthers, anywhere he went. Yep. If he went there, he blew up.
He played well. And then let's just go a little bit further down. In 2020, other than Isaiah Simmons, there's not a single overly relevant player on here. 2019 is when they drafted Kyler Murray. In the second round, they drafted Byron Murphy, which is a stud, and Andy Isabella, which was a massive bust. And then Zach Allen, which ended up being a pretty good player in the third. And then not a whole lot after that. And then you can go back to 2018. Josh Rosen, All-Star, Pro Bowl Hall of Famer, bro. Josh Rosen. Christian Kirk in the second round. Solid player, I'd say. I would say he's like a superstar by no means, but I think they hit that pick. Let's call that a hit. And they drafted Chase Edmonds in the 4th. You want to call that a hit? I wouldn't stop you, but he's not on the team anymore. So, and then, I mean, the last draft class I'll talk about is 2017, where they drafted Hassan Reddick. They drafted Budda Baker. Hit. So, if I'm going to pick the players here that actually made contributions to Arizona in a positive fashion, Budda Baker, Christian Kirk, Chase Edmonds, Kyler Murray, Zach Allen. That's it. Over the last 6 years.
The only thing I'm going to add, and you kind of hinted on it, is I seen this pop up the other day. I meant to say something earlier, but Isaiah Simmons, like you kind of hinted on, they moved this guy so much. So last year in 2021, inside linebacker, 58%. This is percentage of snaps by alignment. So inside linebacker, 58%. Outside linebacker, 23%. Slot corner, 16%. This is this year. Granted, they had the injuries like I hinted on. This year, inside linebacker, 36%. Outside linebacker, 14%. Slot corner, 45%.
That's just too much to me, man.
This guy, granted, he can do it, but
physically, but mentally,
he needs to play one position.
I would agree.
If you don't want him to play slot corner, then move him over to slot corner permanently. Granted, this guy cannot stick all. To me, it is insane that he played slot corner 45% of snaps this year.
I agree. I'm looking at Isaiah Simmons and what Ideally, I think he should play. He should be like a box safety. Like he should be the third safety, and you can do all kinds of stuff with him as the third safety. Don't put him inside backer and slot.
I think not to the extent, but kind of what the Chargers do with Derwin James, you could do with Isaiah Simmons.
That's what people were saying in the pre-draft.
Yeah, but I think to an extent, I don't think he's definitely not Derwin James, but to an extent, he can do the same things. And this is a player I would think Arizona, like the Chargers, want with Derwin James to wander around.
Yeah,
I mean, big hits, go after the quarterback every once in a while,
play in space.
That's kind of what Clemson made him do in college.
Yep.
And they let him go after the quarterback, and that's just something, to me, Arizona doesn't let him do enough.
I would agree 100%. That's what he is. And I wouldn't ask him to go man up a slot receiver.
No, not 45% of snaps.
I wouldn't ask him to go man up a tight end either. Like, well, depends on the tight end. But Travis Kelce? No.
Definitely not.
No. But you get what I'm saying with him. I think they need to find something and stick with it. And in general, go away from this philosophy of these do-it-all defensive players. I think that getting that GM was the best thing they could have done. And for Arizona, what do you think they're trying to do this year?
Let me look at their contracts one more time. This year, man, the big concern about this year is, their backup quarterback is still Colt McCoy, correct? They didn't get nobody. They missed out on all the free agent quarterbacks, and I don't understand why they didn't go get anybody. Baker's contract was 1 year, what, $7 million? $8 million?
Yeah, $8 million. Something like that.
I would have maybe took a gamble on him you don't know what Kyler Murray, one, when he's going to return this year, and two, when he returns, he's going to be healthy the whole time. Yeah. To Colt McCoy, if that's my starter going into next year, and no telling how long, and just,
I know a player that's an interesting fit for their
no
offense.
DeAndre Hopkins. The offensive line's not good. You have James Conner still, which I'm not a fan of. I think it's going to be a rough season next year.
You think it's going to be on purpose almost?
I don't think it's going to be on purpose. I can see kind of what they did this year, man. 4-13. They're going to win some games they shouldn't win.
They might lose more than that, bro. Granted, they get to play
you got it.
The Rams twice. So
yeah, but if I'm betting on one of those two teams, right? Just kind of a hint at what I'm ranking them, but I'd bet my money on the Rams before the Arizona Cardinals, at least to turn the ship around.
I would agree. I'm in that ballpark as well. I just think they have more to offer.
But both the teams have the same problem, and it's starting quarterback.
Yeah.
And question marks on health.
Definitely think DeAndre Hopkins gets traded.
Yeah, and then that leaves you with Rondale Moore and Hollywood Brown. And both of those guys are my height. Granted, they run a lot faster than me, but they're my height out there.
Golly. Arizona's going to have a rough season, bro.
Why didn't they go get a quarterback, man?
I got an interesting player. I think it's really
Taylor
good fit,
Heineke would have been I'd have loved to see Taylor Heineke get a starting job in Arizona and just trying to do something with it.
He got one in Atlanta.
Okay. Poor Desmond.
Interesting fit, man. Like you were saying, they didn't get a quarterback. What about the BYU kid, man? What'd I say? That's poor man Kyler Murray?
No, whoa. Ain't 32 better than me.
Whoa,
ain't 32 better than me.
There is 32.
You just wait and see. Ain't 32 better than me.
You know, he's going to be saying, I'm back on the couch again.
Nah. Dude, if there's a team that's going to take a chance on Cam and didn't do nothing in free agency.
Dude, he would get killed out there.
He would, too. They have no offensive line.
They have nothing. Who's he throwing it to? He can't even throw the ball.
Rondale Moore. Slot.
Cam Newton is a guy that needs a big body target because he can't hit the wide side of a barn, much less a
They had the tight ends there. The tight ends were there.
Rondale Moore.
Zach Ertz.
He got hurt last year, didn't he?
Yeah, but then they drafted, goodness, I already forgot his name. Trey McBride.
Trey McBride out of Bama.
So they have two tight ends. That's their only bright side.
Yeah,
I think that is
Buda Baker.
Thinking of the team and what they have, bro, their full best spot, sadly, is tight end.
I would agree.
If a tight end go down, the next one that comes in, you're not oh man, we're in trouble. But any other starter goes out on this team,
Well, I mean, even their starter. Like,
Okay.
their offensive line sucks, man. Like,
Their
I'm trying
offensive
to.
line is bad.
They got DJ Humphries at left tackle.
And
That's
he's
solid.
there for, what'd I say? Goodness. DJ Humphrey, left tackle. He's there till 2026. And that's if he don't demand to get cut or a trade.
Yeah. Man, this is a dumpster fire, bro.
You think Arizona's, with how they're sitting now and what you said, pretty much you thinking this is the worst team in the NFL next year?
I think depending on what happens with Tennessee, I think they're one of them two. Tennessee gets rid of Derrick Henry. Yeah.
I think you have to get rid of Derrick Henry.
If I'm Tennessee, I'm like, dang, this thing.
I think he's 30 this year. He had a good production season last year. I think he had like 1,600.
How different that would have looked, too, if Malik Willis ended up being, like, good last year.
Joshua Dobbs, bro, came in and started.
Over him, which is wild, but...
Joshua Dobbs knew that stuff was falling down in Tennessee. He went to Cleveland to be a backup again in Cleveland. That tells me all I need to know about what's going on in Tennessee.
Tennessee's probably going to start Malik Willis all year, and they're going to be horrible.
Yeah, but you do that, though. You need to cut Ryan Tannehill at this point.
I don't know, bro. I think keep Ryan Tannehill, have him like a mentor coach kind of
Ryan
deal.
Tannehill don't want to coach that man.
I know he's already said that, didn't he?
I think he did.
And before the season, he was like, I am the guy or something like that. I'm not teaching them.
All right. Well, I think that's enough Arizona talk. You agree?
Yeah. I just want to apologize one more time to these guys because, man, when I was looking through this roster and this team, I was just like, damn. It's rough being a Dolphins fan at times, but it could be worse.
Yeah. Look on the bright side if you're Arizona. The one thing I see, I mean, he tore his ACL. He's played plenty of Call of Duty at this point. He should not be wanting to play any during the regular season.
You know, they always drop that new Call of Duty in October, so they might just be screwed no matter what.
Man, all right. The Rams, like I've been doing, coach, GM, they're 6 year under the head coach of Sean McVay, and they're 11th under general manager Les Snead. Their record last year was 5-12. The year before this, we all know where they were. They were getting boozed up and dancing and celebrating that Super Bowl win, which they went out and kind of what we're about to get into, paid the price for doing that. They had, 2 Pro Bowlers, Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey, which is no longer a part of this team. Another big hole to fill on this team and many other positions along with it. But they traded Ramsey for a third-round pick 77 from Miami.
And Mr. Hunter Long.
Yeah, Hunter Long, good job. Enjoy being in Miami.
I don't even know what this player can do for you, and I'm a Dolphins fan. He had good college tape, but sorry, I kept interrupting you. Go ahead.
No, you're good. College tape, Hunter Long. Woo! All right. Their draft picks last year, as you can imagine, they said F them picks. So, really, Kobe Durant, their corner, is kind of the only guy that got a little bit of playing time. And with
good player, though.
Ramsey exiting, I'm thinking they see something in this kid and they want him to get more play time. And Ramsey wanted more money, so ultimately they had to split ways. But like I said, the Rams came in the 2022 season as defending Super Bowl champs. The Rams failed to match their 12-5 record from the previous year. The Rams dealt with, key injuries, everywhere. Their starters included quarterback Matthew Stafford, All-Pro Cooper Kupp, Aaron Donald, and all whom had played potentially roles of them winning the Super Bowl run ultimately. The Rams season, with third most injuries behind the Tennessee Titans and Denver Broncos. They had the most injuries in the NFL. Through each of the first 11 games of the season alone, the Rams have started 11 different offensive line combinations. That is 11 different offensive line combinations. That's insane to me. That's Matthew Stafford, whoever, Baker Mayfield. Each week you're having a new offensive line guy out there. You're not having a clue. Probably just got them off the practice squad. There's 11 of them. Some of them's coming from somewhere. Some of their big contracts, of course, Matthew Stafford, 4-year, $160 million. Aaron Donald, Cooper Kupp. Yeah, this one's gonna hurt. Allen Robinson.
That's the biggest thing I looked at,
bro. 3-year, $46 million. What is that? 30 of it is guaranteed. Or no, 15. Yeah, average. Yeah, 30 mil is guaranteed. This contract's until 2025. They tried this offseason. I don't know why they tried. Nobody's trading for this guy. Nobody. The only thing that else hurt them with the offensive line trouble, they do have a tackle, Noteboom. I hope that's Joseph Noteboom is how I'm reading it. He's a solid player, too. He's a solid player. He's got a deal till 2025. And then they have their right tackle. I'm just call him Rob. Havenstein. Yeah. But he's also another guy that's got a contract till 2026. Then their next biggest player after these guys is Tyler Higbee at tight end, which he's been a great piece for them. Matthew Stafford and him has a good connection, and he's there until ultimately this is his last year of his deal. But, I mean, for the Rams, you have Sean McVay. That's the one bright side you have on this team. The things that scare me is, your draft picks. You have round 2, pick 36, round 3, you have 2 picks, round 5, you have 3, round 6, you have 3, and then round 7. But, these are all picks later in this draft, and we already said about this draft, we're not definitely at this point. You're hunting for players at this point when they're getting ready to draft. And then the last thing really to talk about this team is, it's kind of like Arizona. Problem is Matthew Stafford had a spine injury, and this is one that took A-Cube Shipley, offensive lineman, played for Arizona for many years, ultimately ended his career. I understand that's an offensive lineman, but, this is a quarterback that's taking maybe not bigger shots than the offensive lineman is, that he's getting hit repeatedly over and over on the line, but this is a big concern for me in Matthew Stafford's injury. I think it'd be Wolf, who was their backup a couple years ago. I believe maybe still on the team. You might want to check behind me because we know ultimately Baker Mayfield is no longer a part of this team, and we've seen him come in when Matthew Stafford get hurt and had some good moments and also some bad moments. But this Rams team, if I'm the GM, and I think we're kind of seeing it with him trying to load up on a lot of these 5th and 6th and 3rd round picks, is
John Wolford.
Yeah, he's still there. Why didn't they don't have the money? But
young quarterback Bryce Perkins too.
Bryce Perkins, I can't put a face to it.
Later round draft pick,
but the only thing that scares me with the Rams is I think you have long term wise, Aaron Donald's about to be out, Matthew Stafford's injury, and then it was only a 4-year deal. You already had one with him. Then next year, if he does get hurt, I don't think he's playing. There's no way.
I don't know what the Rams do, man.
And then you went and got Allen Robinson, trying to get rid of him now.
Boy,
that can't do nothing. Nobody
was a stinker,
wants
wasn't
that.
it? That was a stinker contract, dude.
Granted, I thought Allen Robinson was good and thought it was more of a Chicago thing, but
I think we found out it wasn't.
We found out he was maybe not what he was saying he was in Chicago.
Yep. I look at this Rams team and I think, man, their philosophy that they took
F them picks
was just that. But if you look at this thing, I think it was 2016 they drafted Jared Goff in the first round.
Yeah.
And then, they made the playoffs. I don't know if it was that year, but
I think it was
2017
year of Jared Goff they made the playoffs.
This is when Todd Gurley and all that was there, and they were very good. And then they made it to, I believe, the NFC Championship with Jared Goff and company. Sean McVay's doing a good job here, but they just fell a little bit short, and ultimately
they made it to the Super Bowl with Jared Goff and
Todd
Gurley.
They made it to the Super Bowl. Sorry, yes.
Yeah, they made it to the final game.
Yes, and they came up short.
Yeah, that's when I had Brandon Cooks on that team. Oh, my man.
Yeah.
Time has flown.
It has, man. I can't believe I forgot they went to the Super Bowl with that team. But they fell a little bit short. And what they did to kind of put themselves over the top was go trade for a difference maker at the quarterback position and Matthew Stafford. And then they did a few other things. They signed Bobby Wagner this previous year, and they kind of pushed all their chips towards the center of the table and said, okay, we're going to go all in this year. Guys like Jalen Ramsey, Cooper Kupp, Matt Stafford, stars and scrubs. Yeah. Basically how they built this roster. And they pay just these couple guys all their money, and then they have to carry the weight of the whole team. Yeah. And we kind of saw what happens when you take that approach. One player gets hurt or another player goes down, you have to rely on some of these backups, and you see the effects. Yeah. And this team, they fell off hard.
And then, like you just said, other than the guys you named, but Aaron Donald's another piece. Leonard Floyd, another big piece. He's not coming back. This is another, somehow, still a free agent out there. I think he's waiting to get what he wants. I think it's probably a bigger bag than what people want to give him, but for the Rams, that's a big key piece.
Yep.
You're losing Leonard Floyd, Ramsey. There's probably
Matt Stafford, maybe.
Matthew Stafford, probably.
He said he's coming back.
He wants to play. Now, granted, this guy is a dog.
He's a dog.
For real. Some of the shots he took in Detroit and come back from. And even last year on their big run, he got hurt and kept playing.
He did. And Matthew Stafford, one of the most underrated quarterbacks of the last decade and some change, man. This guy just didn't get enough. He didn't get talked about enough, man. As he's a stud.
He is. And I really didn't watch a lot of Matthew Stafford, but, when the whole no-look pass thing was going on, and, big fan of the Pat McAfee show, of course. Aaron Rodgers is going to get brought up in this conversation because he even said, so y'all are talking about Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes and all this, but we're not going to act like there was a guy down in Detroit wearing 9 doing this stuff for years, just never got under the radar because of what Detroit was.
Yeah. And, he put up insane stats year after year after year.
Man, Calvin Johnson helped him, boy.
Not every year.
Nah, he was hurt